This is like 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. YouTube is not starting yet. 4, 3, 2.5. 2 is
This
Facebook.
sounds like when I'm trying to count down for a child to do something.
Don't make me stop this car.
3, 2 3/4, 2.5.
Okay,
2 1/4, 2 1/5.
We've managed to get live on Facebook, so I'm still looking.
Right.
Usually, it's actually running live on YouTube long before it shows itself for me, and there we are. We're on both of them. So
Okay.
we will officially start the show. It begins wait. I need my script and I need my music. There's my script. There's my music.
We are ready to go.
Never.
It is one of those days.
From the studio in the bonus room above the garage. There's the bonus room above the garage on the north side of Cary, sequestered at the foot of Mount Belzoni. This never ad-lib during the music. This is the Triangle Talk Show. We're also coming to you from offices across the Triangle and beyond. And I haven't found a good way to incorporate that into the introduction. So the Triangle Talk Show, episode 85, April 19th, 2020. Report from the Hoods, volume 4. We're going to find out what's going on out there. So it is from across the Triangle and beyond now, because we've gone beyond the Triangle. We got somebody from out of town. We're letting an out of towner come into the show. Let's see. Well, first of all, I'm Gary Pierce. Just take care of me for a moment, and that's all you need to know about that. Down in the corner here is Jen. And where have I got your title, Jen? Your title number 5, Nanny Jen. You do the Nanny Cast. You're still doing that?
Yes.
Okay. Brendan is not joining us on the show today. He had yard work or something to do, so he'll probably be back in a week or so. And then 3 brand new people that have never been on the show before. In the upper right-hand corner, for those of you listening on audio, in the upper right-hand corner is Jasmine and Jasmine Berry. Also in the nanny business, you run something called the Nanny Posse.
Posse, yes.
Yeah. And we'll find out what that
Nanny
is.
Posse.
Yep, we'll find out what that is in a little bit. And then over here in the left-hand side of my screen, and I got to find out where I got your title. You were just, there you go.
You can be Jasmine also.
Michael Ryan Morgan, who is administrator. And did you start this thing, or did you get recruited, or you started with somebody else?
I was the starter of this group.
Okay,
yeah.
So the founder of Stay Home NC, a Facebook group, which I'm guessing is suggesting that people stay home and not go out and play yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. Well, we're going to talk about when that might possibly work out. So let me... Skype is not being friendly to me anymore. It used to let me pick who I could make full screen, and now it's not letting me do that anymore. So whoever talks ends up as the full screen person. We'll just go with that. I guess
that means you have to say hi, Shanna, to get introduced.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Hi. I don't know if that worked.
It's not promoting you full screen. Shout a little bit.
It's okay. I can be that little circle.
There you go.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, there you go.
There we are.
I didn't introduce you. You are Shanna Broders, a Wake County teacher. We've been trying to get you on the show for a while, and there's your official title, to talk to us about how this education thing is going now that we're all online. And I first got the idea because you put something on your Facebook page that said, give us a break. This is not going to go well the first week. So that was before the first week, and now you've had a full week to get into it. So let's talk about that a little bit. And again, Jen and Jasmine have education backgrounds too, so they can ask more intelligent questions than I can. And Michael, I don't know, you just have to wait a little while.
Well, actually, I have a computer information systems degree from App State, and I will be starting my graduate certificate program to get my teacher certification this fall. So
Nice.
So I'm the odd man out.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So I may have something you're looking forward to.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Take advantage of the knowledge and expertise that you have arrayed around you here on Skype. Shanna, how did that first week go?
It went pretty well. I practiced in the weeks off with my kids. We did a Zoom first, and then I found out Wake County isn't allowing us to use Zoom as a platform. So then I moved to Google Meet. And my kids learned how to get on and off. And as soon as you click on, you mute yourself immediately and all that. Because 27 kids in a Google Meet is a really good time. It is fun seeing them. I had used Google Classroom for the last 2 years, so my children knew how to get on there, but I've had to learn a lot of other platforms to push my instruction out.
What is Google Classroom?
It's just a site where the kids get to log in and all their assignments are lined up for them.
Okay, so it's not an online meeting and talking thing. It's just
Google Meet is that.
Yeah.
No. So for those that use sites like that in college, we have Canvas, and there's a few others. So it's
Moodle,
kind of
Blackboard.
Like Blackboard is the
Moodle.
other one.
Yeah,
Yes.
Blackboard.
So the thing about Google Classroom is I think it's free, correct?
Yes.
That's what makes it different.
Mm-hmm.
Is it's free.
May I pick a bone with Google Classroom right now?
Feel free.
As a nanny who has had to walk a set of school children through doing school. So when you click onto the class in Google Classroom, the first thing you see is sort of this most recent feed of what your teachers have done, and you have to click over to the next tab every single time to go see your assignments. And it's so annoying. I wish that next tab over was the default.
Yes.
Okay, so let me also have a bone. I have a bone to pick too, because we have a technology issue in our house. For those of you that clicked in earlier, I am teaching online, which means I'm on first thing in the morning from about 6 till 9 a.m. But the student in our house logs on to his classroom at 8. And what we found out is sometimes he can't get into his classroom for some reason, maybe because I'm on the internet or because I'm in my Google account. And so that first day he was so late and we just could, but I'm working, we're trying to figure out what's happening. It was so stressful. And
that's where grace comes in. And the fact is that I'm not supposed to be doing, and the teachers are not supposed to be doing live teaching. They're there to answer questions and troubleshoot, but your instruction is supposed to be videotaped somewhere so that they can access it at any time. Because what if there's 4 kids in the house? Right now, I get on at 8:30 in the morning. I have an 11th grader. I have a 10th grader. My daughter and her new husband are sheltering in with us from New York. He works online. She works online. So can you imagine that? We're all on at the same time. It doesn't work.
Yeah, that's a consideration I had not occurred to me, not having kids.
Yeah.
That so you are recording your instructions, making yourself a TV star?
No. So one of the new platforms I had to learn is called Book Creator, which is actually really cool now, although I was extremely resisting. So I was like, why can't they just go to my Google Class? But so you go to Book Creator, it's a little book they flip through, and it's set up day by day. And every day I have my little video lessons, and I have the links to my Google Classroom where my assignments are. And they just go in when they can access it and do it. So
That sounds better than Google Classroom, using Google Classroom for how to flow the order of the day.
Yeah, I'm about to go learn that.
Hey, I could share my screen and show it to you. It's really cool.
You can? I think if you can figure it out how.
Welcome to technology.
I mean, I would love to share that with my tutors, because anything that would make it easier for them to share their knowledge would be great.
So is it okay, Garen?
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me see if it works.
Something's happening.
Can you see it?
Oh my God, it's meception.
The screen that you've got selected is your Skype screen.
So I'm going to Book Creator. Can y'all watch me do this?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Watch out for passwords or something.
I do this with my kids as well. Okay, here is our science book for next week. I didn't make this one. My teammate, Mr. Kagerice, did, but this is his. Not that I'm throwing any shade to Mr. K. Mine's prettier, but. So we're going to go to mine because I know it better too. So next week, I'll let you see it like the kids see it as opposed to my edited view. That was my editing. So they come in and here's the, open day. Here's the first, this is just the introduction. This week, you're going to have a problem of the day each week. So you go to the problem of the day. That is in our Google Classroom. Here's our Google Classroom links. This is an article. You click it, and it will open it up and show you a PDF that, so they can read this and see that this is a little introduction to our new unit we're starting in language arts. And then Monday, I learned how to use Screencastify, I think it's called. So this link is actually me going through the lessons I would do in the classroom with them, the PowerPoint that I would use and flipping through. And then I have the videos embedded over here that we would use in class. That's a little video. Oh, there's one of me. There's one of my friend, Miss Ramirez. Again, links every day. On Tuesdays, we have math, videos of multiplying decimals, and then videos of me sitting outside multiplying decimals on a whiteboard.
Okay, go ahead and play one. Go ahead, play one.
Oh my God. Oh, this is so lame.
Hey guys,
really?
this is Phoners, and I'm
Hold on. I've got to make it go bigger. You can make it go bigger. I can't right now. I don't understand that.
Maybe because you're in a...
Maybe because
So
I'm
many
in
technologies.
Yeah.
Secondary window, yeah.
This, maybe what I don't see. This one was a screen capture. I did a math problem. This one will open. I did a math problem on my smartboard application. I've got it turned down. And I showed them how you multiply and how this was set up. And I used, you can see me highlighting a little bit, drawing how this pictures it. But so they can go back and watch this as much as they want. Yeah, so we have a lot. So I'm turning that one off.
We're probably
these
real
are
close.
more.
We're probably real close to creating the singularity here in technology.
When I was in college, there was
Yes.
one time where my polymer chemistry professor wasn't able to teach us a live class. So he taught a class to a classroom that had the cameras set up for distance learning. And I learned more from that class than I ever learned from any live class at all, because I was able to pause, rewind, go back over and over and over the stuff. I think this stuff is amazing.
It's
If I
so
didn't get somebody to do it.
Did I stop sharing?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, thank goodness. I thought I did, but I couldn't tell.
No, I love distance education. I finished my bachelor's degree on a distance education program, and that's how I know Canvas. But it was great because, just like Jen said, I was able to go back and forth and rewatch those videos, and all the information that normally I'd have to note take was given to me. The problem is, those teachers took months in order to put that information on a platform and they had time to learn the platform. And right now what we're finding is these teachers have had weeks and are just spitfire.
Yeah. And we're not being given a lot of grace from some people in communities. Like, I've tried very hard, and I do feel bad, like you said, for people who you can't expect a child to be sitting there from 8:30 to 10:30 or something for a little language arts lesson and a math lesson. So we did videotapes. I have links to Khan Academy or just other people so they can see lots of different ways. And then my Google Classroom is just where you go to get all the background stuff, the worksheets or the articles.
The problem that I see is, like, the people around me, a bunch of I'm in the age right now where all of my friends have kids that are just now getting into school, right? And it's the fact that they have to take and teach their kids now, and it's something that they weren't big on before, I guess, and haven't been taught how to do. And I guess a big point that, like, gets to me is the fact that there's a lot of people out here on Facebook that I've seen that are like, oh, Common Core math, I'm going to teach my kid the way that I learned how to do it. So when they get back, they've learned a completely different way to do the math and won't be doing it correctly. It's hard because, these people don't know how to teach, and that's just part of it. They never learned. But
yeah, they're like, I want you to learn that 2 times 5 is 10, and I want you to learn it as fast as possible, and I don't want you to have any concept of what multiplication is. I don't want you to know that. You just need to know the recipe. 2 times 5 is 10. Just regurgitate.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's the way I learned it, but I'm 70. So.
Yeah, and I think another problem that people don't think about when they're teaching their own kids is the relationship that you have is different than a teacher. The relationship that a nanny has with a child is different, and sometimes we're not the best teachers because we're too close emotionally. And I think that's something else that we haven't taken into consideration just yet.
Okay, I was going to ask Shanna a question, and she left the Skype. So,
well, I think she was frozen.
Yeah.
So I think she needs
Oh, good. Hopefully she can come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I expect she will. She's got the link, and they'll just pop her right back in. What I was going to ask is how much... and you guys probably have an idea how much more parental involvement there will be with this learning from home than there would be if they're just going to school.
Some kids more, some kids the same, some kids less. Because it just depends on whether the parent is prioritizing their own work or not. Some parents are saying, screw my work. Like, I'm going to focus on my children and their learning, or they've been laid off, or they've been furloughed, so they don't have any work. Some parents are really, really worried that if they don't show up to do their work for their employer, they're going to lose the roof over their head. So they're saying to the kid, like, listen, just watch video or just watch cartoons all day and eat, sugary cereal. I got to work. Just don't die. Yep. And then some parents are, they're able to balance it in between. And I don't think anyone is right or wrong. It's just, it's unique to the situation.
Well, and we also have to realize that there are multiple learning styles out there. And when you're in a classroom or when we don't have our current stay-at-home order, you have multiple avenues of support for the different learning styles. So right now, not every child is getting the support they need, and not every parent is equipped to give that support. And that's where I think you're going to have the biggest gap in terms of learning, because not every child is going to be able to sit in front of a screen even for 5 minutes to get what they need out of it. They need that person in front of them.
I was wondering how parents get involved in their kids' education in normal times. Some parents do and some parents don't. And some parents are up in the teacher's business all the time. This gives them more of an opportunity to kind of get in the way. Is that something that's happening, or are they more, do they still defer to the teacher and how the lesson plans are going to go and how the kids are going to learn?
I don't think that any of us can talk about that because we're not on the teacher end, but I did see some of the parents in my Facebook feed have definitely taken issue with the curriculum choices. There are some pretty heavy topics that are being required to be taught right now. One feed that came to mind was somebody mentioned that their child is learning about the Holocaust right now from home. And it's a pretty heavy, big, traumatic thing that you're tossing on top of a kid stuck inside the house when people are starting to die from COVID-19. And so she took issue with the fact that maybe that didn't need to happen now, or, that it was important that the children learn about past genocides and tragedies, but maybe not just at this exact moment.
Or maybe this is the perfect time. Maybe this is the time that we need to go in and have these discussions with our kids, because, life is not perfect, and we know it's not, and things happen. And doing it at home versus doing it at school is they still need to know,
I think,
regardless.
Yeah, I think my only concern with a subject matter like that is, again, we go back to support and having other avenues. Because not every parent is equipped to have that discussion with their child. And now we've taken the teacher out of the mix. I mean, they are there, but they are not there as the same support they are when they're in the classroom. And these are all things to keep in mind, right? Parents are taking on a lot more than just teaching, but now they have to do some emotional support that they can balance out with their teacher sometimes.
Say, I know that one of the curriculum issues and I didn't take it up with the teacher. I knew it was just a case of I'm not equipped for this, but the child for language arts was learning poetry, which is great. I love reading poems. I have no innate ability to write a poem. And the teacher was just like, here's this poem, here's the structure, write a poem was the assignment. And I had trouble then having to help the child learn to be a poet, because I'm not. I mean, and their poetry was just more like word vomit.
Well, and I think,
I was no fan of poetry. It lowered my grade point average in college.
Yeah, I think another thing to keep in mind. So I start the mornings teaching English, right? But I know my curriculum. I went downstairs the other day, and the 5th grader was doing an English assignment, and I looked at it, and I had to keep looking because I'm like, but this isn't my curriculum, so I don't know, and this is just going to take more for me to clue in, and it's not. I'm a teacher, but I was not equipped to teach someone else's lesson. So imagine that for a parent who is trying to balance their own work schedule and work life. You're
not interchangeable parts.
Yeah.
No. Stuff that goes on in the background.
I'd say it would help for the more tricksy lessons if there were teacher videos. The thing that I know that the parent who was complaining about the Holocaust said, and the thing that I know with the poetry unit, is there were no videos. There were no explainer videos. The teacher didn't present it in a particular way. It was words on a PowerPoint. Here's the topic. Here's an example. Now you do it. And that's
some super creative
really
people can grab something like that, but not everybody can.
It would have helped to have a little scaffolding, just a little scaffolding in there. And scaffolding is a term of art.
Okay, so Shannon,
you got to be careful about this stuff. I'm sorry. Just one more quick point to that is the stuff that can be taken politically, especially stuff like the Holocaust. We don't take it politically, of course. So a lot of us don't, but there are people that will, and that therein lies that problem of here's the frame. Do what you will with it, and that's where I find that becoming a problem.
Yeah,
it's you've got Holocaust deniers out there, and you can't act like you don't, and some people are going to teach their kids that.
Yeah. So Shanna's Wi-Fi dropped out in her whole house, which
no,
I imagine we are finding that to be a problem in all of this conferencing stuff at one point or another, as technology will fail, and so she's going to try to get it back together.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, I was going to ask you guys just a last week today, with apologies to John Oliver, just how this last week in coronavirus isolation has gone for each of you guys. Has anybody met anyone yet who had contracted or recovered from the virus?
Ask me next week. There's that.
We had a scare. We thought my brother had, because my brother is a FedEx employee. He works in the warehouse, and FedEx doesn't provide them with appropriate protective gear. They had to ask for soap for their bathrooms.
Jeez.
But he tested and we're good. But yeah, it was a scare. It was definitely a scare.
Okay, Jen,
Ask
you're
me
still.
next week.
Go ahead.
2 out of the 3 people that I've known who've received a test, 2 of them came back negative. The 3rd comes back tomorrow. So.
All right.
We don't know on the 3rd.
You've actually encountered people who have had the opportunity to take a test. Those are still rare. How did that work?
Yeah.
They had the fever. They had the symptoms. They had the cough. They had the loss of smell and taste.
Yeah.
They called up and they went, okay, you're a potential ventilator user maybe, so we're going to test you.
Who did they go through?
That was the same for...
Who did they go through to get that done?
Their primary care physician. I don't know where the primary care physician sends them because, they had to do that by themselves. One of them got tested in the hospital. One of them showed up in the hospital and was actually in such critical condition that they needed to go to the hospital, COVID-19 or not, and it ended up being not. It was just a different kind of illness that was still hospital worthy.
I will say, so my brother is in Ohio, and they have a hotline. So I was able to call the hotline and figure out where their testing sites were. That was very helpful in terms of figuring out where he could go. And then they tell you what time to show up in order to get the test, so that you're not just waiting and you just do it from your car.
And how long did it take to get results back?
72 hours, I believe.
And Jen?
Yeah. That's about right. They still have to run it on the high throughput machines. I mean, LabCorp has high throughput machines, but they have to get it to LabCorp. It has to be run. It has to be queued up with everybody else's that are running. And then the results have to come back to whoever the doctor is who can interpret the results and properly counsel the patient.
Okay. I've heard stories of it takes a week or 2, and I guess that's not happening now. It's
analytical chemists are in it.
Oh, yeah. Like I was telling y'all before the podcast, I was actually tested last week. I was taken into the COVID unit, and my test, they're running tests through Wake Forest now. They're not running them through an external lab. And my test was back in 7 hours. So I can't say that I personally know people that had COVID, but I definitely saw some, for sure, in the unit.
Walked closer than you wanted to them.
Yeah. Well, I was closed off in my own isolated room. Everybody that was coming into the room was in full, face shield, gown, everything. I felt the farthest from humanity that I have in my entire life.
So you've seen what we see on TV, but most of us don't encounter in person. And my trips...
It's scary.
Yeah, my trips over to Rex, which ended last Monday, my last radiation, their cancer unit is totally walled off from the rest of the hospital. They were taking temperatures and asking questions and stuff, but we did not see or encounter anything that was going on with COVID. And their staff and personnel in the cancer unit don't interact with staff in the rest of the hospital. So they kept us, as they really should, because we were all immunocompromised. They kept us totally isolated. Michael, you're in a rural area. Shannon. It looks like Shannon's going to come back. So yay! You're in a rural area. You're actually north of Winston-Salem in.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm up in Westfield, closer to the Virginia border.
Yeah.
So.
And there's no town right nearby. As I looked at it on the map, it looked like
7 miles out, Pilot Mountain. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we're all in suburban, type territory around the Triangle. Can you tell anything that is different just because you're in the middle of no place?
Things don't change around here, unfortunately. Just one of the reasons that got me to start the page a week before last, before I went into the hospital. Our neighbors actually, we came home from grocery shopping, and our neighbors came in and had cars filling their entire yard. And we could hear noise coming from the backyard, so my wife went to investigate. And lo and behold, there was 15 kids in the backyard playing. Like, and their parents had all brought them together, and we literally heard them say something along the lines of, no, we're not supposed to take pictures. Shh.
Wonderful.
And I was like,
Wow.
excuse me? But, of course, being the wonderful Southern neighbors that we are, we didn't say anything. I hope nothing happened. I hope none of them got infected by it. But it was also one of the driving points behind me creating the page.
Okay.
Is people aren't taking this seriously.
And we'll get deeper into what you've done with Stay Home North Carolina in the Facebook group in a little bit. But Shanna's on relatively short time. She's going to have to bail out on us soon. But since you're back, what was the technology fail you had?
So we'll see if I'm at.
Yeah, I can hear you. You had a massive technology failure? Okay, maybe she can't hear us yet.
Oh, she froze up again.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll enjoy her little icon as long as it lasts, and we'll probably drop off pretty soon. So you, Michael, you've encountered neighbors who are like, don't care.
Yep.
All right.
That's life in rural America. You know, like they hear the stuff on TV and they're just like, whatever, and they just continue their everyday lives. That's just what it is. It's unfortunate, but.
Well, I wanted to review just a little bit of what's going on around the area, just some of the statistics. North Carolina has at least 6,366 lab-confirmed cases as of this morning. And now the DHHS is admitting that the case counts don't give the full picture because not all patients who are even ill have been tested, and not all people have been tested, so we don't know how many there are that aren't showing any signs yet. 388 hospitalizations, 87% of hospitals reporting. I don't know why it's so hard to get hospitals to report. I found a couple of interesting maps. This is a North Carolina map for those of you. Oops, there we go. The wrong picture. For those of you looking at the video, it's just North Carolina map with each county and the number of cases that the county has. Wake County has 592. Mecklenburg is the biggest with 1178. Around us, Chatham County 119, Alamance 50, Orange 178, Durham 409, Franklin 69, Nash 61, Johnston 123, but then over in Wayne County 463, kind of an outlier. And Jen, I believe we were talking about there was one death reported in North Carolina in the Triangle area last week when we did the show. So that has jumped up some. Wake County's got 4, looking at this map. Johnston County has 9. Chatham's got 1. Orange has 3. None in Alamance. Franklin County, 7 deaths. Nash, 1. Wilson County has got 4. So that has jumped up. And we're kind of expecting that to be the case because, again, people dying is a lagging indicator by a couple of weeks at least. So as the cases start to flatten out, then we'll still see the death rate rise for a while. Looking at the charts that I'm seeing, and I don't have one to play right now. I don't have one to put on the screen. I wasn't seeing any flattened curve in North Carolina. I was seeing, the chart still pretty much going up pretty steeply.
Unfortunately,
we haven't peaked. I mean, it'll start to look like a bell curve after we peak, and until we peak, it'll just look like an exponential function. Yeah. Hey, calculus.
Yeah.
wait until Tuesday is all I have to say. If that goes the way that I think it's going to go, we're going to see it go even sharper, and I really don't look forward to that. But people are wanting to protest about this sort of thing, so You know,
Tuesday is the Reopen NC Group's protest. Is that what you're referring to? In Raleigh.
Oh, then who was it that already went out there?
They did it last week too. They're doing it this week, and they're doing it the week after.
Yeah, and maybe I'm
Are they going to actually stay 6 feet away from each other so that their protest cries are actually like backed up by their own actions?
Have you seen the videos from last week?
Yes, that's why I'm asking if maybe this time they'll stay 6 feet away from each other.
No,
when you're protesting and you're crying that we can go out in public safely, and then you're not out in public safely while saying exactly that, it's not exactly working in your favor as showing that you're in touch with reality or that your claims are accurate.
Yeah,
this was their first present. This was their first one, and they were spread out. They tried to be as good as they could about their social distancing, so they didn't get arrested. But if you take a look, there's not 6 feet in between those people. You know, they're all together, and the police aren't doing anything about it, and it sort of sucks. But because they do have a permit to protest. But at what point, you know, does the permit become a non-factor because these people are endangering themselves and endangering each other?
I believe there's constitutional law on that point.
There is. But you've also got sheriff's departments out there that
those strollers are way
willing
too close.
They're not willing to enforce Governor Cooper's legislation over what's going on. And it's very sad to watch. But this is nothing. This week, they're busing in people from 8 different cities all over the state.
I mean, I believe very strongly in the First Amendment, and I believe that even if it's uncomfortable for me or they're presenting a point that I don't like, the accurate, safe use of the First Amendment it needs to be used, or else we lose the First Amendment overall.
Right.
However, please, guys, just stay 6 feet away from each other. Like, bring yardsticks taped together or a pool noodle or something. You know,
did you see that guy? And I think he was in a Costco, and then like, it just his pool noodles were just all out. The 6 feet.
Pool noodles.
We can just give them all a pool noodle crown.
I mean, if you can accurately show that you can safely stay a proper distance away from one another, maybe then the rest of your argument has merit. But an argument built on faulty ground has no merit. I mean, this just goes back to like logic and philosophy. If you start with "we can do this safely" while not doing it safely, any words you say after that point go straight in the garbage bin.
Yep,
they just do. You have to have your premises have to be solid.
Yeah.
And the thing is, they do have valid points. Their group does have valid points in terms of, you know, no, people aren't working, people aren't making money, you know, and they have families to feed, and you know that's horrible. That's horrible. The fact that we can't feed our families because we're stuck at home, but
you can't be listened to on that if you can't start with staying 6 feet away from one another.
Correct. That is the big thing.
So just start there. Like, get that part solid, then you can be listened to for the rest.
Yeah. Some of it is.
But then it becomes.
Some of it is just people being frantic about how bad their lives are and their circumstances, and some of it is highly political. It started with the Tea Party, went through Trump, and here they are. And they're just. Although, if they were the.
Can I address something real quick that I keep hearing?
Yeah.
No amendments are under attack. The reason we can say that no amendments are under attack is because there is a procedure to amend the Constitution, and that procedure is written into the Constitution. And in order to change the Constitution, that procedure has to be followed. If you are unclear or unaware of what that procedure is, the internet is full of civics lessons that can talk to you about a constitutional amendment, a constitutional Congress, ratification by states' legislatures. But until that happens, nothing is under attack. So please do not risk your life for a thing that is not in danger.
That's the scary thing. This event that is going to be going on will bring in hundreds, maybe even thousands of people. All it takes is one. Right. That's all it takes is one person to spread this to all of the people that are there at that event. And then all of a sudden that curve that may look like it's starting to taper off a little bit, just shoot straight back up, and we're right back where we were.
Somewhere in that video, somebody says, "Well, we flattened the curve. Let's get back Let's get things back open again.
There is no flat curve. Absolutely not. Not even close.
And I think
If that looks like a flat curve to them, then they really do need to see an optometrist because they might have astigmatism.
Yeah, they might be looking at something out of New York. But also, I think they misunderstand the concept of a flat curve. Flat is not where we want to be. Curving down is where we want to be. And so...
I mean, a flat curve has an up, and then it curves, and then it comes back down.
Yeah.
And we don't have that yet. We still are just on the up part. So if you are seeing it curve back down, please schedule an appointment with your optometrist. Your eyes might be lying to your face.
It's also an underlying point that was talked about like a month ago, of flattening the curve instead of making it look like a bell, making it like flatten out this way. We're past that point. We can't do that anymore. There is no way. From now, it is a matter of getting over the hump, and we have to get to the hump in the first place in order to get over it. But we can't get there with hundreds of people protesting and spreading the coronavirus in a single day.
Yeah, or getting what they want to happen, which is to open up a lot of things.
Well, and I think the other thing that people have a hard time acknowledging is the fact that the longer we take to realize that we need to do our part by staying home, the longer it's going to take for us to get back down to the bottom. Because right now we're just climbing. Like anyone knows, when you're going up that mountain, you got to come back down one way or another. So how are we gonna do that?
We're sitting here adding rocks to our mountain.
Right.
So I've got a phrase I want to introduce on the First Amendment argument, which says the First Amendment guarantees our Americans the right to peaceably assemble. I want to call this a violent assembly. If you have the ability, because you may be infected with something that has the potential to kill me, by just standing close enough to cough or breathe on me, that's not a peaceable assembly. That's a violent assembly. So I'm trying to get that.
I agree.
I'm trying to get that phrase out there and make it go viral, so to speak.
Because you talk to these people and they're like, well, what about my rights? What about my rights? When do I get to do what I want to do? And
that's not a right.
Right. You've got to let them know that when what you do affects somebody else, it's no longer just your right. Yeah. So,
the First Amendment has limits. You are not allowed to scream fire in a crowded movie theater. You are absolutely not. You don't have a First Amendment right in a school building. Like, so many of my students, when I used to teach, were like, "It's my First Amendment right." And I'm like, guys, there is constitutional law on this point. You don't have a First Amendment right in a school. The First Amendment is not without its limits. And it's important to know what those are. Because if you're going to love the First Amendment, you have to love it for who it is, not who you wish it were.
Right.
All right. So we got two things to cover here before we run out of time. And I can stick around for a long time. You guys may need to go away. One is Michael's group, the Stay Home, that you started on Facebook, and we're taking a look at that on the video on Facebook right now. And then Jasmine has a group that she's doing fundraising for. And actually, before we get too far away from that, Jasmine, I guess I want to give you a chance to talk about that a little bit, and then we'll
Sure.
get into the weeds on Stay Home.
Okay. So as we talk about everyone that wants to stay home, there are many of us out there that cannot. And one of those groups are nannies. So nannies can technically do virtual work. That's a new thing that has started. However, for many families and many nannies, they need to go into work in order to continue to work.
Can't virtually diaper change.
You cannot virtually diaper change. You cannot.
Gosh, I wish.
You cannot virtually chase around a toddler. So there are limitations to our job. Unfortunately, many families are experiencing the hardships as well, and they might have been furloughed or laid off, and nannies are also being laid off, or they are continuing to go into work during this difficult time. And large cities such as New York, that means that they're still taking public transit just to get into work. So nannies are being affected by this in a way that a lot of people don't realize. Financially, physically, emotionally. They're continuing to go into work. They're continuing to do their part, but at the same time, putting themselves at risk every time they do that. In our home, my roommate works for 2 doctors, and every time she goes into work, she puts us at risk. But they need work, they need help so that they can go into work and do their job. So there are 2 organizations that we identified in my company, Nanny Posse, and one of those organizations is called the National Domestic Workers Alliance. They are a nonprofit that works on helping recognize the rights of domestic workers. During this time, they have established a fund called the Coronavirus Care Fund, which is meant to help any domestic worker that is in a financial straits because of this time, whether it's because they have lost their job or have unforeseen medical expenses they're now being presented with. This is an emergency fund that allows them a little bit of financial relief. In addition, there is the Fairy God Nanny Foundation. The Fairy God Nanny Foundation was founded to help nannies get professional development opportunities. However, with the coronavirus, they have allotted their funds now to help nannies in need for the same reasons as the National Domestic Workers Alliance, but also focusing on the nannies who have lost their lives due to coronavirus and helping their surviving children, because there are instances right now in our country where nannies have lost their lives, in several cases because they had to continue taking public transit to get to work, and now their families are without that financial support, as well as the burden of having to deal with the loss of someone during COVID-19. So we are doing So with that in mind, we are doing a weekend-long fundraiser that is virtual fundraiser and also focuses on connecting our community together, because part of what I'm seeing and what I'm experiencing in my little home office is this lack of community. So we're doing activities that allow us to raise money for both of these wonderful organizations, but bring our community together. So we're going to have a trivia night on Friday. We're going to have a live streamed concert on Saturday. And we are going to have a yoga class as well as some workout challenges on Sunday. And we're going to have different prizes and incentives throughout the weekend, as well as hear from some of the nannies and the organizations that are requiring the funds or are helping to raise these funds. So we're pretty excited.
Jasmine, if you'd like to, please post those on the Stay Home North Carolina page. We will post them as announcements, and we will support you in any way that we can.
Wonderful. Yeah, and the main thing too is the fact that it's something for us that we can all do at home, because I think part of the reason people want to get out is because they feel isolated. I know I feel very isolated right now because I have no reason to leave my house but grocery shopping. So being able to connect in ways like this, I'm on so many Zoom calls, not so much because I need to be on Zoom calls, but because I get to see someone's face. So, so why not do something fun and for a good cause instead? So I think I'm most excited about trivia night. And I think trivia night will be fun because it's going to be a game night. Plus I get to see everyone's beautiful face at the same time.
So where can people go to take part of this?
So on our Facebook page, on the Nanny Posse Facebook page, there is a event page. However, if you want to register, because you will have to register for trivia night and for the yoga session. So if you wanted to register, you'll need to go to our website, and our website is nannyposse/giving-back. And on our Nanny Posse Giving Back has a dash in the middle of Giving and Back. That is our event page for this fundraiser.
And as somebody who cannot spell, posse is POSS 1E.
1E.
I have put 2 E's. I cannot tell you how many times. Just 1 E.
Sorry. Sorry. Yes, our posse is fun, but apparently it's hard for some people to spell, and I didn't think of that when I made the name, but yes.
So as I do a search for Nanny Posse on Facebook, I get a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
This is it, right?
This is all me, and that's my
Okay.
beautiful face you see right there.
Okay, so Nanny
Yes.
Posse.
Right.
It comes up as Nanny Posse LLC,
Hello.
Child Care
Yes.
Service.
And another thing, if we're talking about staying at home, and we, as Shana mentioned, the teachers are only on there virtually. You can tune in. So if you need something else to entertain your children, on Thursdays I do live story times with my goats, because we all
I need that in my life right now.
What time?
Oh my gosh. I need that.
11:15 in the morning on Thursdays. We do story time with the goats. Actually, it's Sunday. We forgot to announce our book
on
this week.
Thursdays.
Yeah.
Whether the children want to or not, I have sent them to goat story time because I
was gonna
need
say-
goat story time.
Can I tell my class about goat story time?
You sure can.
Oh my
So we currently have 3 goats in our home. We have
Wow.
Zora, Nugget, and Cookie, and they all join me, sometimes willingly, sometimes not so willingly. And we read, and we just, yeah.
So
You
Shanna is
dress your
back.
goat?
Welcome back.
I do.
As long as your
I do
technology works.
dress my goats. I do dress my goats.
Yay!
Oh my gosh. I need this. I
It makes
need
me
this.
happy.
I make sure that they have a clean onesie before every story time because
God, I love this.
that is needed. That's one of the things that makes us smile. So, yeah.
I apologize for dropping out. The Wi-Fi in our entire house went out. Alexa stopped talking. My son comes out of his room, who's 17. Oh my God, what happened to the Wi-Fi? He's gaming. I
remember
I
those
don't know.
You broke it. You broke the Wi-Fi,
It's
son.
me. It's me.
So you unplug it,
when
plug
this
it back
all
in.
started,
Say that?
Go ahead, Jasmine.
I was going to say, when this all started, when we all stayed home, I don't know if anyone noticed, but everyone's Wi-Fi got slower.
Yes.
That's
And
on purpose, actually.
I don't, was it? Well, I know I spent
yeah.
$150 on a router because I cannot afford to have slow Wi-Fi when I'm teaching, and it was so stressful.
You got to think about the like, especially in closer knit communities like something like Raleigh or the surrounding areas. You've got cables, physical cables that are sending you internet, and the more and more people that are using those at one time, like the less physical space there is, right?
Yeah.
So
So I use the analogy of water hose. The more people drinking out of the water hose, the less water there is for anybody else.
Ah.
Yeah.
but you
Yeah,
should
well,
be drinking out of the water hose in the first place because
Well,
I survived.
my contribution from the water hose was very limited and made it so that the only way I could earn money at that point was slashed. So, yeah, I understand, but I understand that feeling of anxiety, especially right now, that feeling of anxiety that comes when our Wi-Fi goes down, and that's the only connection we have to the world. I mean, gosh, what would happen if my Wi-Fi went down on a Thursday? Y'all would be without my goats.
no goats.
Exactly.
And
Well,
speaking
I'm
of Wi-Fi going down, I recently upgraded my modem. So I have my old modem to give away. It's DOCSIS 2, which claims to not be supported anymore by Spectrum, but they will. It does.
Yeah.
It works. And it's better than having no modem if your modem suddenly up and catches
That's
fire and
true.
dies. So if anybody needs it, you guys can get in touch with me through commenting on Gary's video stream or getting in touch with Gary, I guess, and he can pass that along to me.
You can have mine.
It's free modem.
I've got a
Just for you.
DOCSIS. I got a DOCSIS 3, and y'all can come over here because I have Google Fiber, gigabit Ethernet, 1,000
I have
megabits
the
up
Google
and
Fiber
down.
shirt. I have the 8-year-old Google Fiber shirt, and I have worn it, and it is 8 years old, and I still don't have Google Fiber.
They didn't give me a
I
shirt,
got
but
so
they
excited when they said they were going to bring it to Winston, and I was like, maybe, but then they didn't bring it.
Well,
So,
you're
it was
1,000
so
miles out of town.
I'm not that far. I mean,
So,
it takes me 45 minutes to get to the center of town. That's about it.
Shanna, when you were dropping out, we were asking about how your online experience has gone with teaching, and we got around to our parents getting more involved or less involved, or It's been so long since I've been in school, and my parents didn't pay any attention to what was going on. I understand that you got helicopter parents and more involved parents these days, but with everything going online, what's your experience been dealing with parents? Are they supportive of what you're doing? Are they a problem? Can you say on a podcast they might watch?
Okay, as a teacher in general, it's always the parents, not the kids. I'm sorry, my cat is making a appearance.
Yep.
I do have really good parents this year, but I will say there are some who have gone to the extreme of helicopter. Like, I am watching my kids in my meet. There's a parent right beside them looking over their shoulder. And then there's the ones who I'm not doing enough for them. Their child is bored. Can I please give them more work? This isn't enough. My child is bored. Frankly, only boring people get bored, and you can look at the. Thank you. There's also the fact that being my age, and I'll be 50 in a handful of months. We were bored in the 80s, and we turned out great. Let's just be real. Go outside, kids. Find something to do. There's a wealth of stuff on the internet, too. Like, I did do links. So when school was first canceled on March 14th, on a Saturday, I immediately did go on my Google Classroom, and I set up some links to virtual museum tours, virtual tours of national parks, and just things like that. There's so much out there that they could look at. They don't need to be doing math with me, science with me, reading. Let them explore the world in other ways. Or just pick up a real book and read it. Put a puzzle together. Play a game. I'm okay with, what a concept. But I did set up my class on a lot of different online things, and I let the parents know there's an app called Epic Online, which is free, that the kids can read lots of cool books, and they read to them.
I've heard about that.
It's Storyline Online is one of my favorite things, and Storyline Online is SAG actors reading great picture books aloud to kids. So if you've not gone to Storyline Online, you need to go there because I love it. It's so cool to watch some of your favorite actors and actresses reading a book aloud to you. So I just tried to set up that they could continue some learning, but my parents are extremes right now. They're all in, or their kids aren't getting on at all, and so that's my principal's been pretty good. So we had our virtual staff meeting Friday. That was 58 faces on the screen with people who still forget to mute themselves when they come in.
Oh gosh!
But
the adults are the worst.
Oh yeah.
Oh, they are. Mm-hmm. Most definitely.
Are the kids getting the technology?
Oh God, they're so good at it. It's just, I don't know what changed in our DNA coding, but these little kids, it's inborn. They just step up and get it. What's really great is when my kids are in a Google class or we're talking in the Google Meet about class, and somebody will mention a problem, and another child starts typing in the chat, "Oh, this is what you do," and they fix it for them.
Oh, cool.
I'm going to give a little shout out to Chloe. I won't say her last name, but she's been helping everyone, and I've been so impressed with her. Anyone who's had a problem, Chloe's been like, "This is what you do. This is what you're doing wrong." And she wasn't super engaged when we were in the classroom. I mean, she was engaged. I apologize. She wasn't super vocal in the classroom. Like, she wouldn't have spoken out and done that. But now, behind a keyboard and she's silent, she will type it up and tell you. So she's shining right now, and I really like that.
Found her element. What grade do you teach?
5th grade. They're 10, 11. So they're the oldest of the elementary kids. I think I have a much easier time. I cannot imagine doing this with 5-year-olds. I mean, like, how? The parents have to be engaged at that point because
the kids can't parse the assignment language.
No.
Yeah.
So my kids are really great at it, and it's been helpful that I started stuff they've been wanting us to go to Google Classroom and stuff over the last couple of years and encouraging us to take classes on it. And I did. And so I transitioned in the last couple of years. And my parents liked it because if a child's ever absent, they can just go there and see what we did. And they were missing the video piece component of me teaching it, which I'm getting better at now, obviously. But the teachers who got thrown into this who knew nothing, I can't imagine. Like you said, learning that platform and the amount of time, like I showed you that little book and we didn't even get to look into it. It's crazy. The amount of hours I spend creating that thing and all the different things, all the different platforms I had to learn to put it into that is so beyond what I did for the regular classroom. I'm working so much more. I feel like I'm never off.
Oh, gosh. I feel like that's my coronavirus mantra. I am never off.
Never off. It's true. And then you have your, when you're home, and that's why I'm so respectful of my parents. I have kids too, so I know they're cooking and doing laundry and trying to work. So do what you can do and call me if you need me because I'm here. I had a parent text me at 10:45 the other night. I was a little blown away by the hour. I was like, wow. I did wait till the morning to respond to her.
So do you see anything permanent? Is there anything permanent that is going to come out of this as a change? Or when we're done, everybody wants to go back into school the way it used to be?
Something's going to have to be different. There's not, in my mind, there's no returning to whatever normal was before this. Because we have to be prepared if something like this happens again. Obviously, more teachers are going to be expected to have the knowledge about the technology and giving out information in non-traditional ways. But we know nothing because we're just the teachers. We're the last people to share anything with. I have lots of friends like, you're in the county. Are we going back this year? I'm like, we have no idea. What do you mean I'm in the county? I'm just a teacher. I'm not up in the county.
They don't give you the secret passwords and websites? No
secret passwords for me. Well, I can give you lots of passwords to websites. When we turn this off, if you need any, you can send me a message. I have lots of passwords for lots of great educational websites.
Those types of websites. Actually, I'll take those.
Brain pop, vocabulary.
No, something else to keep in mind during this is to keep your local sources open too. The ones that are staying open to continue to create content. My wife is a seasonal park ranger on the Blue Ridge Parkway, and during her off season she works at the Mount Airy Museum of Regional History. And what they do is every day they're putting out stuff for kids to do, stuff for kids to learn about. Like my wife will put on a animal learning video every week, like to where they learn about the different animals of the area and stuff like that. And y'all living in a much more populated area, I'm sure there's still plenty of resources there that are open. But it's also a good time to talk to your kids about your local resources, like your local library, your local museums, everything that's local that's being taught, because it's also important to know where you're coming from. Yes. It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
We do.
And I'm going to plug my favorite thing that I've found is great for I think all ages, but definitely like 4th and 5th grade. Prodigy Math.
Yes.
It's like playing Pokemon, except instead of Pokemon, you have to do math questions.
It's a game,
Yeah, that's the game.
It's a video game.
Okay, so I'll just say, I'm just going to do a little shout out. The 5th grader in our house is really good at it and keeps beating his teachers.
I love that.
Yeah.
I'm signed into it with whatever the highest grade possible is, maybe 6th grade, maybe 8th grade, and those math questions are kicking my butt, and I have a college degree in math.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'll do the Barbie. Math is hard. So
I'd just like to point out the juxtaposition. White man said math is hard. Woman with pink hair said, I got a degree in math.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm impressed. Shanna, I don't know if this will affect you guys, but I see the Wake County schools are still holding out for a graduation ceremony, an in-person ceremony, May or June sometime.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen, is
They're
it?
usually the first week of June.
Yeah.
They're usually the first week of June, up until about June 11th or so. There's so many high schools in Wake County, they stagger them and have at least 3 or 4 a day. I've had 2 kids graduate from Wake County. They get us in and out of that convention center really fast. It's like that. But yeah, the seniors are upset about it. My thing is, it's a great story to tell when you grow up. I mean, my daughter, my second daughter, who's 24, she had to change her wedding. She was supposed to be married on April 4th, 4/4/2020 was going to be her. Well, it is her date. She still did, but the destination wedding in the mountains, everything was canceled. We ended up just walking outside, and our friend who is a celebrant, like 8 of us, stood there socially distanced and watched her say her vows.
Yeah, you were going to be on the show a couple of weeks ago, and then you texted me and said, I have an emergency. I have to plan a wedding today.
Well, we thought it was just canceled, because of what was happening. And then she decided, no, she was having it. That was her day. Didn't matter. And so we drove to Wilmington, walked out along the waterfront, got married, and turned around and drove home.
That reminds me, Jasmine, of our mutual friend Lindy, who got married in the most recent giant hurricane.
Yes.
That was her wedding day, and
Wow.
she was not going to move it for nothing.
I know. I was tuning in from, I think I was still in Saudi at that point. I'm tuning in like, is it happening? Is it happening? And she did there were some beautiful pictures online, and she made it work.
Yeah. We live streamed it on Facebook so that all of our family and friends could see it. My oldest daughter lives in Istanbul, so of course she couldn't travel. She's quarantined there. They're on lockdown and have been for weeks. And then my parents and his parents. So everybody got to watch, though. Technology can be wonderful now for those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody says they don't know what we would do if we had this going on and didn't have the technology that we've got now. I mean, that's what happened back in 1918.
Yeah.
But
The post office wouldn't be in financial trouble. We'd be writing a lot more letters.
yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
My wife has sent out about 30 cards to her friends just for fun.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love that.
Shanna, is there anything else you need to get out here before? I don't know if you need to go now, but we need to move on to
No.
Mike's deal.
Yeah, go ahead. You can move on to Mike's. I'm just, if you have anyone who contacts you who needs help navigating, specifically, I'm good with Wake County, but digital learning for kids, I'm here. I do virtual tutoring too. Right now, for free, I'm helping anyone walk through.
All right.
Yeah.
And I'm good at 5th grade math.
5th grade math is probably also beyond me at this point. All right. You want to stick around?
Got you on high school chemistry.
Can you stick around, or do you need to bail out and do
Yeah,
family?
I can hang out.
Okay, so Mike, it's your turn. We were talking a little bit about the Reopen NC thing, and what I'm referring to is their goofball protest downtown last week, and they're gonna
That's a good way to put it.
try it again on Tuesdays, this Tuesday and next Tuesday, and who knows for how long, unless they all get arrested and thrown in jail. So they opened this Facebook group called Reopen NC, and I actually saw it. I didn't ask to join it. I could see which way it was going, and it wasn't going anywhere where I wanted to go. But and then it disappeared. And as I was looking for it, trying to find it, I came across a couple of others: a Keep Closed or Reopen NC, and then Stay Home NC. And the Stay Home NC is yours. So what can you tell me about all of those?
Reopen NC have gone dark. They've also lawyered up, which is a little scary. If you want to think about it, I don't know what specifically they're planning on doing with their lawyers. Apparently, they have this long letter written out to Roy Cooper, and they're going to try to fight his executive order.
Yes.
Probably not going to happen. I don't see them getting anywhere in that litigation. But I think they've also brought on those lawyers as a scare tactic to us, which sort of sucks. We can't afford lawyers right now. We can't afford practically anything. We're not taking people's money because we understand that people are in bad situations right now. The stay home or reopen NC page came spurred from us because people thought that our page is a little too liberal, and it does lean left. I'm not gonna lie. We do have a lot of people that are completely in favor of Governor Cooper and what he's chosen to do, and their Democratic representatives in the North Carolina State Senate. And then you've got our group, which is just the group of common sense, I like to say. Trying to keep everybody safe. But not everybody wants to be safe, so we're trying to change their mind.
As I was looking through the posts that were on the reopen or stay home, the intelligence level fell rapidly. The discourse level got pretty low.
You give people a chance to fight, they're going to fight. That's just what it is,
So, I mean, let's see. Your group is you're at 13,800 members now. Mm-hmm. That's growing like really, really fast. We
started less than a week ago.
Yeah, the reopen group I think was at 30,000 or so last I saw it. Mm-hmm. So you're working your way back up there. I see a lot of my friends' faces on the group. So it's facebook.com/stayhomenc.
We also obtained the domain today, stayhomenc.org, and it'll take you right to that page. We're eventually going to have a website. I bought the domain before they could go through the people at Reopen, who seem to be after us now, and buy all of our domains out. So I took my lunch money today and I bought a domain to protect our future a little bit.
Have you been activist in your life in the past or recently? Is that, how did you end up being the guy?
I'm 29 years old. I was a big Bernie Sanders guy 4 years ago. I was definitely probably the only Bernie Sanders person in my zip code or any zip code around me. So I sort of had to become an activist in some way. I was again this year. I stayed out of the process a little bit because I was still dealing with cancer and all the fun stuff. So it took a lot of my energy just to be able to get out of bed for a lot of it.
I know what you mean.
But I've been pretty politically active for a few years now. My wife and my parents keep telling me I need to run for office one day, but I don't think I'll ever do that. It's just not it's not who I am. I want to represent the common person, I believe that this just spoke to me personally because the Reopen people care about themselves, and that's what I think they care about. And that it's in this kind of situation that we cannot think only about ourselves, especially for those of us most at risk. And like I said, I was talking about it before the stream, young people especially are at a high risk of dying from this disease, as opposed to most other diseases that you find in which old people are the ones that end up suffering from most diseases. This disease has a higher death rate in young adults than most viruses do.
Now, that hasn't been the conventional wisdom for a while. It was all saying young people aren't even getting it. That's not
right.
Not the deal.
It's really not. It's okay. There's a lot of factors that play into getting COVID. If you do get COVID as a younger person, you're at risk. You've still got the normal at-risk people, the people that have cancer, the people that are immunocompromised in any way, and the older population that has lost their immune system in some way, which a lot of people will by the time they turn 65, 70. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm running out of breath very slightly. That rib surgery is not sitting very well with me.
Do what you need to do.
Honestly, this is dangerous to a lot more people than they're letting on. And the fact that Reopen is just taking this as an infringement on their rights is a sign of, honestly, how selfish they're being. And it really makes me feel bad that people would throw away lives for money. And that's one of the big tenets of our group, is that no amount of money is worth a human life. And that needs to be something that we follow in our everyday lives. And it was also a few weeks ago people saying that they would sacrifice their grandparents to steady the economy.
Yes.
Did you all read about that?
Yes.
Is that not
That
ridiculous?
economy is dead.
Missed
The
that.
economy is dead. It's given. It's dead. The economy is dead. We are not saving it. And to help those people at home who are worried. I doubt they're watching this because your podcast normally has a very political slant, but the economy was going to be dead anyway. This just made it be dead probably 5 years sooner than it would have otherwise been dead. This economy's death has been coming. And it is because we have reached a point in humanity where resources per capita are now sufficient. So the economy was going to be dead. The old economy was based on the idea of scarcity, where per capita the resources were insufficient. So you had to compete to get resources. The resources available, food, shelter, metals, gasoline, energy, have been sufficient per capita for a decade now. So we were going to have to transition to a post-scarcity economy, or a post-scarcity economic model anyway. So I think it is just better if we all just acknowledge the scarcity economy is dead. We're moving to a post-scarcity economy. Grieve it, please, then decide. Feel first, then decide.
And not to get overly political, I'm trying not to be overly political about this, because we do have people on both sides that are understanding of the fact that we need to be staying home and separating right now. But gosh, if you were worried about the economy before, this is just the failure of capitalism, in my opinion. But it's there, it's happening. And if you were worried about the economy, we would have done something about it a long time ago, instead of waiting until something like this happens to complain about the fact that, oh, we have to stay out of work. Oh, we have to stay home with our families instead of go out and do our daily lives. Why don't we have any money? This has been brewing for a long time, unfortunately.
I have been raised to ask the question, to challenge basic foundational, assumptions. And so when somebody says things like, oh, we have to stay out of work, do you? Do you have to stay out of work? You might not be able to work for that employer right now, but are you not able to find something productive that can have some sort of market value in any sort of market?
If you look on Indeed.com right now, there are over 11,000 stay-at-home jobs in the United States that are currently available. 11,000. That's not bad, and especially if you have a computer at home, work from home. That's what I can tell you to do if you're that worried about it.
I mean, I know people who right now are foraging weeds from their lawn and being able to turn that into toilet paper. Granted, they're not using dollars to make the exchange, but one person's collection of purple dead nettle, which by the way is more nutritious than spinach, is another person's side dish for their dinner. They'll trade you a roll of toilet paper for that. That's a market, guys. That's work. Right. It doesn't need dollars.
Totally different way than I expected the conversation to go. And Jen, you'll have to teach me what you're talking about, because it doesn't, no, other than Star Trek, with their no money economy, and everyone has everything that they need. And I wasn't prepared to listen to the concept of that we are in a at a point where everybody has everything they need. And there are certainly people out there who don't, but I think you're right. Most people do.
And we can get it to them if they don't.
Yeah, but I wasn't.
Because the people who don't can still provide something of value. Even if they can't get dollars for it because of the way the economic structure is set up, the people who don't can still provide something of value in order to get the resources that they need.
Right.
And the economic system we were under was called false scarcity economy or faux scarcity economy. It had to create the idea of scarcity, so it had to deny people resources for their labor or their abilities that they could have brought to a marketplace in order to justify the late stage capitalism. Not to get too economics professor on anybody, but every economic model contains within it the seeds of its own destruction. So there is no panacea economic model. Nothing is going to be a forever and ever, but you have to know when to leave one and move to the next, and when to leave that and move to the next.
Okay,
Otherwise, you hit the part where it's destroyed.
Yeah, we'll do a show. Shanna, does this make any sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
It does. And being that I'm a teacher, I try not to hop out there with my politics too much. My volunteerism has already been used to try to have me fired and shamed at my job.
That's why I left Wake County.
Yeah. Well, I have to say they were great. I volunteer with Gary. Gary, have you talked about that?
A little bit. Not a lot.
Does everybody know? I mean, am I allowed to talk about it?
Oh, you can. Yeah, we both volunteer as escorts at an abortion clinic, bringing women past
Good on
these
you.
screaming protesters.
Yeah, so
That's
I've been
what we
volunteering. What?
I was just going to say they're still protesting. I went by Planned Parenthood a few weeks ago, and they were not only were they still protesting, but they were definitely not 6 feet apart.
I have been an escort in Raleigh for over 6 years, and one of the protesters found out I was a teacher, so they did a smear campaign and made posters of me and memes and sent them out to my neighborhood and put them on Facebook and put them on the internet. And I'm lucky that my principal is super fabulous. She's like, "Are you walking around in a Wake County or Wake Forest, in a T-shirt?" And I'm like, "No." And she's like, whatever. And they tried 2 years in a row, and they've left that alone. But I try. I mean, the principal, the only thing she's ever asked me, she's like, "Can you wait to get arrested till when you retire?" Because she knows it's on my bucket list to be arrested.
That's the way to go out. Right there.
It is. I'm going to be arrested that last year. That's right.
There is a lot of freedom in being retired. I can say and do anything I want. I don't have to worry about what anybody says about it.
That's right. But I won't say my political leanings. I'm sure you can guess most of them since I volunteer in an abortion clinic. But I agree, Jen, what she's talking about. There's enough resources in the world. Maybe everyone doesn't have what they need, but there's enough that everyone should. Like, it's disgusting when you look at what Bezos is making in a minute compared to the people who are losing everything right now if they're having to stay home because they own a small business and they've had to close. And it's just not right. We have a friend who owns a small business right here in Raleigh, and she and her husband, he runs it. It's their entire income. And they've been denied unemployment. They're not employed. They're making no money. You're giving money to millionaires, to big giant companies, and this little tiny store that's been open a year is being provided nothing. I can't wrap my head around that in the world that we live in the wealth that there is.
What's especially disgusting about Jeff Bezos is the fact that he started a coronavirus relief fund for his employees that people had to donate to.
What?
What kind of human being are you, Jeff Bezos? My God, that is so ridiculous. With the amount of money that he has, that he can't even afford to. Well, he can afford to pay his employees a living wage while they're dealing with this coronavirus.
Jen, say it.
Go,
Jen.
Okay, so when we talk about people's net worth, we are referring to what they would get if they sold off their assets. That is not actually their liquid assets at the moment. So it is entirely possible that he doesn't have the cash. And furthermore, if he started dumping the stock he owns, the laws of supply and demand say that now there's more supply with the same amount of demand, the price is going to go down. So it's entirely possible he's not that. Oh, thank you. I'm Cindy now.
Apparently we just got married.
It's entirely possible that he's not actually, in reality, when the poop hits the fan and he has to liquidate everything he's got, he might not be that rich, which is why I personally take issue with this whole net valuation nonsense when declaring people billionaires. If you don't have $1 billion of liquid cash sitting in a savings account, you ain't a billionaire, honey.
Yeah, makes sense.
Right. Yes.
He shouldn't have been asking people to donate to save his workers, though.
No,
Yeah, that is very ridiculous.
Or say that you're going to match, or say that you're taking the money from our, I don't know. Yes, there are other ways he could have done this.
Yeah.
To
share
at
out
least
the stock to his employees, the stock that he's got a lot of, give them some shares.
Right.
Even if he doesn't want to liquidate it, let them choose. Do they want to liquidate it or not?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But yeah, the other point that I guess it's well lost now, but I wanted to go back and correct is when people think that their rights are being infringed by the stay-home order, that they're not. And it shows, when people say that, it tells me just exactly how much attention they didn't pay in civics class. Yes. Because there is constitutional law on this. There are judgments, in the Stay Home NC group alone, there are, 2-3 constitutional attorneys who have been popping in, writing full-on legal briefs for everybody to read. It's not true. It's just not true. Again, it's you've fallen in love with what you want it to be, but that's not what it actually is.
Right.
Well, that's just like the protesters outside the clinic when they say their constitutional rights are being infringed upon if they're not allowed to come all the way up to the patients to share their love and share their help. Like, yeah, no, that's not, you can share, you can stand over there and say what you want, but you don't have the right to make someone stop and listen to you. Or you don't have the right to stick your hands in people's cars and force them to take your items.
And you don't have the right
to get people sick.
And you don't have the right even to speak uninterrupted. I mean, it is entirely legal and moral, might I add. I checked this with the ethics department of North Carolina State University. It is entirely legal and moral where if somebody is saying something you don't want to hear, if you just break out into song and out-sing them.
Yeah.
We tried that for a while. We're not doing that anymore.
We have adopted a non-engagement policy because, one, I was doxxed and then other people were harassed, and one of our escorts was actually taken to court by a protester because we use umbrellas to obviously for the heat or the rain, and also sometimes the patients might want to hold an umbrella so they don't have to visually see the protesters. And she walked off the property to tell someone they were in the wrong parking lot to please come in our parking lot, and she put the umbrella, closed it, tucked it under her arm, and a protester came up behind her and pushed on it, and then took her to court saying she assaulted her with it. Yeah. So we are there. It's stunning how these Christians lie.
They're another group of wackadoodles. I mean, for the most part, they are religious fanatics.
And what's funny is there's a solution for them out there, but they're not aiming for that solution. So the solution is, and we do it all the time in cattle, it's called embryo transfer. And it is where you remove an embryo from one uterus and put it in another uterus. It's embryo transfer.
Yeah.
If somebody doesn't want that baby anymore and somebody else so desperately wants that baby or whatever, go sign yourself up for embryo transfer. Go make sure the science gets there for human embryo transfer. Then you take the kid on.
Well, I mean, that is an option. That's called embryo adoption. But you also, as the parent, have the right to decide whether or not you would like your embryo to enter the world. Because again, just like adoption, that's there's a lot of responsibility that comes with choosing the right parents to raise your embryo. And I know that at that point it's just an embryo, but it will still be, if that were the case, that would still be my biological child. And I would do whatever I can to make sure that the parents are the best parents that my child could have, whether I carry that child or not.
They
and
would
I agree
never
with
go
that
far.
But
they won't
if
even
they
take
would
care of
at
born
least
children.
enable that, because the embryo adoption is for an embryo created out of utero.
Yes.
It's created in a lab. I'm talking about an embryo created in utero, so in a body being extracted and then placed in it. If they would just get behind funding that science to make sure that makes it to market, like, that would be a great use of their passion. Because there are, of the people that I know who have had abortions, there is a fair number of them who are like, I just want it out of my body. I don't care what happens to it next.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the
people who stand out there won't even take care of born children. Like, they don't even support legislation.
No, because that's not what they're about. They just want to shame somebody.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is the great left-wing talk show that I've been envisioning the Triangle Talk Show could become. But we started a different show here at 90 minutes in. So let's come back. Let's come back around to do that in a week or so. What I want to wrap up on is, and I've got the too long didn't read CDC phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 for how we get out of this thing. I'm going to leave it as too long didn't read, but let's see what you guys think is our end game. Is there CDC says there's an end game in sight. This is how to do it. They don't have any timetable for it, but do you guys see this, a way out of it? I mean, the reopen NC, they would just want to turn things back on in 2 weeks.
I believe entirely, and my group entirely, is of the understanding that we are going to reopen, and it's going to happen, and things are going to get back as close to normal as they possibly can. As to a matter of a time frame, as to a matter of how it's going to happen, I leave that to the experts. I leave that to Roy Cooper. I leave that to the DHHS. Let's leave that to the people that know that stuff, the scientists, the doctors, the ones that are doing the research. They know when we're going to get out of this, and they know the best way for us to deal with it. So let's put our fate in their hands like we've put them in that position to do. That's my 2 cents.
In 10 years, we won't still be in this. That's
We'll be in
somebody
something
always
else.
said, like, whenever something's bad, think about 10 years from now. If you're going to have an uncomfortable conversation at work, or you're going to have to, anything bad, just think 10 years from now. 10 years from now, we're not going to be in this. 10 years from now, we're going to be going to the park and swinging on the swings and eating ice cream.
I've had that philosophy.
Outside with friends.
I've had that philosophy whenever I've been in the middle of something and I didn't see quite the way out. It's I've been here before, and I'm not there now, so I found a way out. So
yeah, tomorrow's going to happen, and the day after that is going to happen. And are we going to make some mistakes along the way? Probably. I mean, we're human. Error is human. But in 10 years, we're going to be living a whole kind of life. So I think that you can make it a week if you can make it a decade.
Yep.
Yeah, and probably sooner than 10 years.
Yeah. I think right now I'm also trying to remind myself that we are resilient, and we are more resilient than we give ourselves credit for. And that we need to remember that whatever tomorrow holds, whether we reopen or not, whether we reopen and shut back down, whatever that is, we'll be able to make it through as long as we give ourselves that credit. We are our own worst enemy. Yeah.
I guess for this particular thing, a vaccine is ultimately the cure, the way we get out of it when we give everybody immunity to it.
The first step.
Yeah. But
there was I think it was on Tuesday, there was a thing being held by Biogen or Biopharma where they were talking about all 100 and something vaccine candidates and where they were in the process, because we've got some vaccine candidates and they're in process, and you don't want that process rushed, because if that process gets rushed, people die.
Yeah.
And they die in preventable ways, and I am not here for preventable death.
For some reason, Cindy wanted to watch the movie oh, now I can't remember the name of it. One of the
Contagion?
pandemic movies, Contagion. Yeah. And that was their end. Yeah. It took somebody, a selfless scientist, testing it on themselves when, that was the only way to speed things up, and it worked, and they gave it to everybody, and that's the end of the movie. I don't know that that's quite the way it's going to happen here. It might happen faster.
It doesn't work because the plural of anecdote is not data. So even if one person tests it on themselves, that doesn't make it safe.
All right. So here's the CDC's website, the Opening Up America again, and the phased approach, things like responsibilities, what people have to do, what employers have to do. They got phase 1, a lot of stuff in there. Phase 2, a little bit less. Things are a little bit more open.
Yeah.
Phase 3, getting more and more open, and even phase 3 doesn't say everything is fine. It still says you got to be careful. And it doesn't mention vaccine.
Scared.
It doesn't mention vaccine, and it doesn't mention a date.
I'm scared to push school open too soon. There's no way to keep as many people in a school as we have 6 feet apart, which isn't even far enough. And the amount of people working in the schools who have underlying health conditions. I have rheumatoid arthritis. I have actually 2 autoimmune disorders. So I'm a little bit higher risk. My daughter has asthma, really bad. She would be at higher risk. I'm working with someone who is, fighting multiple women who are fighting cancer right now. And all I can think is all those kids, like people, I joined, I'm in your group, Michael, but I joined one of the reopen groups because I wanted to read it.
That seems to be the case for a lot of people.
I did. I want to see.
You want to join both just to take a look at the other side?
I have a whole secret Facebook identity to watch the other side. And I was stunned by so many of the comments about teachers specifically, because I'm an educator, that's where I was looking, about how greedy we are, which stuns me often, how thankless we are, and then really just being relegated to a babysitter, watch my kids, just take them. We need to get back to work. You're essential because you need to watch everybody's kids so they can work. And no thought of to how many people within a day you would come into contact with sending your kids to school, on the buses, in the lunch line. It's astounding to me.
For all of you being educators in some way, you deserve so much more than the state gives you. I just want you to know. I like not even being a teacher yet myself, knowing the things that you all do. It's just crazy. You all don't get paid enough. You all don't get anything the way that it needs to be. And North Carolina is behind because of that. And it's the fact of the matter that people are still saying that you all are greedy, which is beyond anything I can comprehend at this point, because, you all deserve so much more.
Right. And I think I think you've already said this before, but for anyone who's listening, that month the teachers had off, they were not off. They were working.
Never.
They were working. They were still putting in their time to make sure that when online was up and running, that they could run their online classes. So I applaud you for that, because I understand how much time it goes into that. And it's not an easy task. It is not something that is done quickly. So, teachers have not had a break yet.
That's true.
And parents, the parents and the kids deserve a break. You talked about expecting your kids to be online, but you're supposed to be working. And I just love that my principal has been so graceful about it. And she and my AP sent an email to all of us today to send out to our parents and say, first and foremost, you are supposed to be taking care of your family and keeping your family safe. That's what happens first. If you get to this other stuff, we're here for you. We're providing a schedule. We're providing stuff for your kids to do. But do what you have to do to take care of yourself.
That's
I
very good to
guess
hear.
it's not like that at every school. I don't know.
I think that's a good spot to wrap up on. Thank you guys for making this a wonderful show. Very informative and passionate. And we have another show in the works that we just started and I had to stop. So we'll do that one. So Michael, you are, let's see, where have I got your title here? You are that. Stay Home
that.
NC Facebook group, and you'll have got a website, but it's pretty much pointing to the Facebook.
It points to the Facebook right now. It's just stayhomenc.org. We got it as a preventative measure to make sure that they didn't buy out all of our domains. So,
Yep.
But yeah.
It is. What is it full of? Just people's comments? Do you have education? Do you have things to do?
We fill it with as much education as we can. Most of my administrators and moderators have science or medical backgrounds in some way, so that they can answer questions. That was a big thing of mine. I do have other moderators that are just there for like keeping out the trolls and all the fun stuff. But I do try to keep a good amount of the leadership in my group factual. So I do have a good friend of mine that graduated with her PhD from Duke in chemistry that is helping to explain the vaccine and how it works and what they're doing to bring it forward to the public. And that's just an example of one of them. I've got my mom is a moderator. Actually, she's been a nurse for over 25 years, and she has a really good experience in the field as to what the nurses are dealing with right now, which is a lot. So we try to keep it as factual as we can. Of course, people do get politically charged on my page. That's part of what it is. But we try to keep as much factual information up as we can.
All right. Well, thank you for being here.
Thank you all for having me.
Jasmine Berry, the nanny
Hello.
posse. Thank you for coming.
Yes.
Any last thoughts from you?
No, I think just remembering to, as Shanna said so much, to have grace with everyone that you come in contact with right now. We are all learning by fire, trial by fire. We are all trying to navigate the same difficult situation. We are all in the middle of a challenging situation, and we need to remember that. And also remember that your essential care workers, yes, they are essential, but they are putting themselves at risk when they go into work, whether they be a doctor, a nurse, or a nanny, and to be grateful for the fact that they are continuing to work.
Or a supermarket checkout person.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Shanna, 5th grade teacher, Wake County Schools. You get a lot of thanks and recognition. Probably you get some some tar and feather tossed at you, but you're not paid nearly enough considering how much education you had to go get this.
Oh, it's not about the money, and I get a lot of love and hugs. Haven't had my hugs though in a really long time because I haven't seen my children since March 13th. Friday, March 13th was the last day I saw my class, and I really miss them.
It'll happen again.
And I would love to see them before the end of the school year because they go to middle school, but we don't know.
What have I seen with teachers driving past kids' houses in sort of like automotive parades?
Some schools have done some parades in neighborhoods. We talked about that in one of our meetings. I don't know how they're choosing to do that. Like, our school draws from such different places, and the Wake County maps are so crazy. So how do you choose which kids get to see the parade?
Yeah.
My principal equity is her biggest thing. It's huge at our school, and I'm on the equity team. And she said, how does it make that one little neighborhood feel that we don't decide to drive through their neighborhood? So she said, we talked about it. We wanted to. It is really nice. I would love to. And literally yesterday, it's so funny you brought that up. We did a drive-by birthday for one of my daughter's friends. she was turning 14, so her mom had her come stand outside, and all of her friends from gymnastics, we drove by with big signs on our cars and just to wave and hoot and holler and do the horns. But that's what was happening with some of the schools. The teachers and stuff drove by to see the kids, and the kids would stand outside, which would be really neat. But I am at least getting to see mine on the computer almost daily.
All right. All right. Well, thank you for being here and finally able to get you actually on the show. Anytime you want to come back, let me know. We got stuff to talk about. And finally, finally, Nanny Jen. Actually, I'll make you say something so your picture pops up.
Yeah, my final thoughts are when America said we would like to send a manned mission to Mars, that was a lie. Because in order to send a manned mission to Mars, somebody would have to stay inside that spaceship for 150 to 300 days. And guys, we can't even stay inside of our house for a week.
That is true.
Yep.
That's true.
That's a good bow to tie on things. All right. This has been the report from the hoods. Let me go back to grid view. Shanna is still not letting you have your own box. I don't understand why.
I love Jasmine's box.
I will share.
Welcome to my box.
All right.
I love it.
This has been the report from the hoods, Volume 4. I'm pretty sure there's going to be a Volume 5 and 6 and 7, whatever. It's April 19th, 2020. It's episode 85. I should put social distancing episode up there.
Yeah, there we go.
Yep, of the Triangle Talk Show. It's a 3-word close. I will say the first two. You all three together can say the last one. I'm sure you're going to understand what it is. Over and
Out.
Out.
Everybody gets it. And now I got to sit here and just smile at the camera because YouTube goes out too soon if we... YouTube goes out too soon if I push the button too soon. So YouTube guys, you can wonder what we're talking about